Jack Morrison stood at the window of his quarters, looking out at the strange purple sky of Nexus Prime. The alien city stretched as far as he could see, with buildings that looked like they were made of glass and light. Flying vehicles moved between the towers like silver fish swimming through water. After 20 years as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, he still found the sight amazing. A soft knock on his door broke his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes entered the room. She was tall and serious, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. As his military assistant, she always brought him the news he needed to hear, even when he didn't want to hear it. "Sir, the emergency meeting starts in 1 hour," she said. "I have the latest reports from our deep space ships." Jack turned away from the window. "How bad is it?" Lisa's face was grim. "Worse than we thought. The Devourers hit 3 more systems this week. The Kepler colony is gone, all 2 million people." She handed him a data pad. "Our ships got close enough to record what happened." Jack looked at the device but didn't turn it on yet. He had seen too many of these reports already. The Devourers were like nothing the galaxy had ever faced. They came from somewhere beyond the known star systems, moving in huge swarms of ships that looked alive. When they found a world with life on it, they would land and begin to change everything. Plants, animals, people, even the rocks and soil, everything became part of them. Then they would move on, leaving behind a dead world that looked like it was made of dark metal. "How many systems have we lost now?" he asked. 47 confirmed, Lisa replied. "But our scouts think the real number is higher. Some places just stopped sending messages. No distress calls, no final transmissions. They just went quiet." Jack rubbed his forehead. The headaches had been getting worse lately. "And the Council still thinks we can talk to them?" "The Zephyrians want to try mental contact. They believe all thinking beings can be reasoned with." Lisa's voice showed what she thought of that idea. "The Corvani say we should wait and study the threat more. They think rushing into action is foolish." "Of course they do," Jack said. The Corvani had been around for thousands of years. They thought everything could be solved by careful planning and long discussions. "What about the Vex?" "They're building bigger shields around their core worlds. General Korth says their defenses have never been broken." Lisa paused. "He also said humans worry too much because we're young and don't understand how these things work." Jack felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting mad wouldn't help anyone. The other races looked at humans like children who got scared easily. They had been part of the galactic community for thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. In their eyes, 20 years since first contact was nothing, but humans learned fast, maybe too fast for the comfort of the older races. "Sir," Lisa said carefully, "I have something else. Captain Brooks sent a private message. He says the intelligence data we've gathered might surprise some people." Jack looked at her. Captain Ryan Brooks ran the Human Intelligence Office. Officially, humans only gathered information about threats to Earth and human colonies. Unofficially, Brooks and his people had been studying everyone and everything since humans joined the Council. It was what humans did. They learned about potential friends and enemies alike. "How much do we know?" Jack asked. "Everything," Lisa said simply. "Ship designs, weapon capabilities, defense systems, military tactics. Brooks says we could write a complete guide to defeating any Council member's forces." Jack wasn't surprised. Humans had been soldiers and warriors long before they reached the stars. Even as diplomats and scientists, they still thought like people who might need to fight someday. The other races saw this as primitive thinking. They didn't understand that it had kept humanity alive through countless dangers. "Get me the full briefing files," Jack said. "All of them. If I'm going to ask them to fight, I need to know what we're really asking for." Lisa nodded and left. Jack turned back to the window. In the distance, he could see the Council building, a massive structure that looked like a mountain made of crystal. Representatives from dozens of races met there to discuss trade, resolve disputes, and make laws for half the galaxy. It was supposed to be a place where wisdom guided decisions. Today, Jack hoped it would be a place where someone would finally listen. An hour later, Jack walked through the halls of the Council building. The corridors were wide enough for the largest council members, the elephant-like Gorvani, but filled with artwork and decorations from hundreds of different worlds. Every step reminded visitors that this was a place of many cultures working together. The main chamber was huge, with seats arranged in circles around a central speaking area. Each race had their own section, designed for their specific needs. The aquatic delphini had water-filled tanks. The energy-based lumina floated in special containment fields. The insect-like tricks hung from the ceiling in web-like structures. As Jack entered with Lisa and two other human staff members, conversations stopped. Other representatives watched them with expressions ranging from curiosity to concern. Everyone knew why they were here. Chancellor Vex Prime Korth stood at the center of the chamber. He was 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor that looked like polished stone. His forearms gestured as he spoke in the deep rumbling voice of his people. "We gather today to discuss the threat from beyond our borders," he said. "Some believe immediate action is required. Others counsel patience. We will hear all voices before deciding our path." The Corvani representative spoke first. Elder Quantal was old even by his people's standards. His people lived for centuries, and he had been a council member for longer than humans had known about space travel. "The threat is real," he said in a voice like wind through dry leaves. "But we must not let fear drive us to hasty choices. These creatures, these devourers, follow patterns. If we study them long enough, we will find their weakness. Then we can act with wisdom rather than emotion." The Zephyrian collective mind spoke through their crystal representative. Their voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, like music made of thought. "All consciousness desires to continue existing. These beings must have reasons for their actions. We propose attempting communication. Violence should be our last choice, not our first." Other voices joined the discussion. The aquatic delphini wanted to strengthen defenses around water worlds. The trick suggested hiding until the threat passed. The energy beings wondered if the devourers could even harm them. Finally, Chancellor Korth looked at Jack. "Ambassador Morrison, Earth called for this emergency session. What does humanity propose?" Jack stood and walked to the center of the chamber. Around him, dozens of alien faces watched and waited. Some looked curious. Others seemed ready to dismiss whatever he said. A few looked worried about what the humans might suggest. Jack had spent 20 years learning to speak carefully in this chamber. He had mastered the art of diplomatic language, of saying important things without causing offense. Today, he decided to try something different. "We propose that you listen," he said. "Really listen, because what I'm about to tell you will change everything." Jack Morrison looked around the great chamber as silence fell over the council. Every alien face was turned toward him, waiting. He could feel Lisa Hayes standing behind him, ready with the data files that would change everything. "For 20 years, Jack began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber, "humanity has been the newest member of this council. You have treated us with patience, like teachers with slow students. You have shared your knowledge and guided our steps into galactic society." Elder Quantal of the Corvani nodded slightly. This was the kind of respectful speech they expected from humans. "During this time, we have learned much about your peoples, your cultures, your histories." Jack paused. "We have also learned about your militaries." A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Chancellor Korth's forearms shifted position, a sign of growing attention among his people. Jack gestured to Lisa, who stepped forward with a portable display unit. The device projected a 3-dimensional image above the center of the chamber, a detailed map of Corvani space showing fleet positions, defense stations, and patrol routes. "The Corvani Empire maintains 47 battle groups across 16 sectors," Jack said calmly. "Your primary weakness is the gap in coverage between the Antara and Belos systems. A coordinated strike there could cut your fleet in half." "Elder," Quantal's ancient face showed shock. "How do you know this information?" "Our fleet movements are classified at the highest levels. We observe, we learn, we remember." Jack nodded to Lisa again. The display changed to show Vex Coalition territory. The Vex maintain the strongest military in known space. 50 battle fleets, each capable of destroying most civilizations. But your ships are designed for fighting other council races who follow honorable combat rules. Against an enemy that doesn't care about honor, your formation tactics become predictable. Chancellor Korth rose from his seat, his massive form radiating anger. You dare to analyze our defenses? This is an act of espionage. This is survival, Jack replied without raising his voice. Lisa, show them the Zephyrian analysis. The crystal beings had no physical military, but their mental powers could influence entire populations. The display now showed the locations of their meditation centers and the range of their collective consciousness. The Zephyrian collective controls thought across 42 worlds through linked crystal networks, Jack explained. Destroy 12 keynodes, and their ability to coordinate collapses. Their greatest strength becomes their greatest weakness. The musical voice of the Zephyrians filled the chamber, but for the first time it carried notes of discord. This knowledge should not exist. Our inner workings are sacred, hidden from outsider minds. Jack continued methodically through each major council race. The aquatic Delphini with their water-dependent technology. The energy beings who could be dispersed by specific frequency weapons. The Tricks whose hive minds could be disrupted by targeting queen mothers. Every species had vulnerabilities that humans had identified and catalogued. Stop this, Elder Quantal commanded. What is the purpose of this display? Do you threaten us? No, Jack said. I'm showing you what we learned because we had to. Every species in this chamber is thousands of years older than humanity. Every one of you has technologies we don't understand and wisdom we lack. But every one of you also thinks like immortals. He gestured around the chamber. You plan in centuries. You debate for decades. You believe time is always on your side because you've survived everything the galaxy could throw at you. His voice grew harder. The Devourers don't give you centuries. They don't care about your wisdom or your age. They will be at the core worlds in 18 months. Captain Ryan Brooks stepped forward from the human delegation. He was a compact man with gray hair and cold blue eyes. As head of human military intelligence, he had spent years gathering the information they were now revealing. We've tracked Devourer movement patterns for 8 months, Brooks said. They're not random raiders, they follow a specific strategy. The display changed to show a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with red arrows indicating the swarm's advance. They target worlds with the highest biomass first, then use that matter to create more of themselves. Each consumed system makes them stronger. The red arrows formed a pattern that made several council members shift nervously in their seats. The Devourers were moving in a spiral toward the center of the galaxy, where the oldest and most populated worlds waited. Their ships aren't ships as we understand them, Brooks continued. They're living organisms that can repair themselves, adapt to new weapons, and coordinate through some kind of biological network. Traditional tactics don't work because they don't think like us. Then what do you propose? Chancellor Korth demanded. If our traditional methods are useless, what solution do you humans offer? Jack walked closer to the center of the chamber. Around him, the greatest minds in the galaxy waited for his answer. Some looked skeptical, others seemed worried. A few appeared frightened by the implications of what they had heard. We propose total war, Jack said simply. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. The Corvani representative stood and began a formal protest. The Zephyrian's harmonious voice became a discordant wail. Even the peaceful Delphini splashed angrily in their tanks. Jack waited for the noise to die down, then continued. Not war as you understand it. Not the careful, limited conflicts you've fought for millennia. Real war, the kind humans know. Barbarism, Elder Quantal declared. We are civilized beings. We do not resort to wholesale slaughter. And that's why you'll lose, Jack replied. The Devourers aren't civilized. They don't want to negotiate or find compromise. They want to consume everything that lives and turn it into more of themselves. Against an enemy like that, civilization is a luxury you can't afford. Lisa activated another display, this one showing detailed tactical analyses. Human doctrine. calls for simultaneous strikes against all enemy coordination nodes. We identify their command structure and eliminate it faster than they can adapt. We use their own interconnected nature against them. We don't fight fair, Brooks added bluntly. We use deception, sacrifice tactics, and weapons designed to cause maximum damage. We fight to win, not to prove our honor. The Vex Chancellor's armor plates shifted, a sign of deep consideration among his people. Even if we accepted this philosophy, we lack the ships for such an assault. Our fleets are strong but not numerous enough for simultaneous strikes across multiple sectors. Jack smiled, and something in that expression made several delegates lean back in their seats. Chancellor, you're still thinking like immortals. You assume the ships you see are all the ships we have. He nodded to Lisa one final time. The display changed to show Earth's solar system, but not as the Council knew it. Hidden bases appeared throughout the asteroid belt. Civilian space stations revealed concealed weapon systems. Ships that were supposedly exploration vessels showed their true military nature. Humanity has been preparing for this war since we joined the Council, Jack said. Not because we wanted it, but because we knew it would come someday. Every human world has been fortified. Every civilian ship can fight. Every space station is a weapons platform. The silence in the chamber was complete now. The Council representatives stared at the display showing a solar system that had been transformed into a fortress without anyone noticing. You see, Jackie continued, humans learned long ago that peace is only possible when you're prepared for war. We hoped we'd never need these preparations. We hoped your wisdom and age would be enough to protect the galaxy. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each major delegate. But hope isn't a strategy. Elder Quantal found his voice first. You've been deceiving us for 20 years, building weapons while speaking of peace. How can we trust anything you say? Because we're telling you now, Jack replied. Because, when the real threat came, we chose to reveal everything rather than watch the galaxy burn. He paused. And because whether you trust us or not, we're going to fight. The only question is whether you'll fight with us or watch from the sidelines while we save your civilizations. Chancellor Korth stood slowly, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. And if we refuse? If we choose not to follow humanity into this total war? Jack's expression didn't change, but his voice carried a tone that made even the ancient Corvani feel cold. Then you'll discover what happens when the only species willing to fight dirty is the one trying to save you. The chamber fell silent, again as the implications sank in. For 20 years, the Council had seen humans as eager students learning the ways of galactic civilization. Now they realized they had been living alongside a species that had never stopped being warriors, even when dressed as diplomats. The war for the galaxy's survival was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the universe what they really were. 3 weeks after Jack Morrison's shocking speech to the Galactic Council, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, watching her fleet prepare for war. The ship looked like a peaceful exploration vessel from the outside, but inside it was pure military power. Hidden weapon bays opened along the hull, revealing guns that could crack a moon in half. Admiral, all ships report ready, said Commander Pete Williams from his position at the tactical station. Around the bridge, 20 other officers worked at their posts. Every one of them had trained for this moment their entire career. Kate looked at the main display showing her battle group. 50 ships that the galaxy thought were science vessels and cargo haulers now showed their true nature. The research ship Discovery revealed torpedo launchers along its sides. The transport vessel Unity opened panels to show rows of fighter craft. Even the small survey ships carried weapons that could destroy much larger enemy vessels. Any word from the Council? Kate asked. Mixed responses, replied Lieutenant Colonel Matt Rodriguez from the communication station. The Vex are sending 12 battle groups to join us. The Corvani promised support, but their ships won't arrive for another month. The Zephyrians are still trying to make mental contact with the Devourers. Kate shook her head. Even facing extinction, some of the Council races couldn't abandon their old ways of thinking. They still believed every problem could be solved through patience and careful planning. What about our scout teams? She asked. Matt's expression grew serious. Colonel Rodriguez's teams are in position throughout Devourer space. They've confirmed what our intelligence suggested. The swarm isn't just randomly consuming worlds. There's a pattern, a central intelligence directing everything. The main display changed to show a map of the infected systems. Red dots marked worlds that had been consumed. Yellow dots showed systems under attack. But in the center of it all was something else. A massive concentration of Devourer ships surrounding what had once been the Helios system. Dr. Helen Carter's analysis was correct, Kate said quietly. There's something in there controlling everything. Something that's been doing this for a very long time. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Carter was working in a secret research facility hidden inside an asteroid. She had been studying Devourer technology for months, trying to understand how the creatures thought and how they could be stopped. The biological components are unlike anything we've seen, she explained to her team of scientists. They're not just alive, they're intelligent. Each ship, each weapon, each piece of their technology can learn and adapt. Her assistant, Dr. Mark Taylor, looked up from his microscope. The sample we recovered from the Kepler attack shows rapid evolution. In just hours, it adapted to 3 different toxins we tried on it. That's not the worst part, Helen said, grimly. She activated a holographic display showing the internal structure of a Devourer bioship. Look at this. The ships aren't just controlled by the central intelligence. They are the central intelligence. Every vessel is like a brain cell in a massive mind. The implications were terrifying. The humans weren't fighting an army of ships, they were fighting a single galaxy-spanning organism that learned from every encounter. But there's good news, Helen continued. If they're all connected, they're all vulnerable to the same attack. We just need to find the right virus. Back on the Phoenix, Admiral Sullivan received an urgent message from Earth. President Linda Carter, Dr. Helen Carter's sister, appeared on the main screen. Her face showed the strain of leading humanity through its greatest crisis. Admiral, we've identified the Devourer command structure, the president said. There are 7 core nodes scattered throughout their territory. These aren't just ships. They're thinking centers for the entire swarm. Destroy them and the whole network collapses. Kate studied the tactical data that accompanied the message. The 7 nodes were heavily defended, each surrounded by hundreds of bioships. Getting close enough to attack them would require sacrifices. That made her stomach turn. Ma'am, this will cost us everything, she said. We'll lose most of our fleet just reaching the targets. President Carter's expression didn't change. Admiral, every human who joined the military understood they might die protecting our species. Today they get to die protecting every species in the galaxy. I can't think of a better cause. Kate saluted. Understood, Madam President. We'll get it done. The human fleet moved out toward Devourer space, but they weren't alone. Word of humanity's plan had spread throughout the galaxy, and something unprecedented was happening. Races that had been enemies for centuries were joining forces. Vex battle groups flew alongside Corvani wisdom ships. Even the mysterious energy, beings were contributing their power to the effort. Colonel Rodriguez led the first strike team into enemy territory. His soldiers were volunteers, men and women who knew they probably wouldn't come home. Their mission was to plant quantum disruptors inside the biological networks that connected the Devourer ships. Remember, Rodriguez told his team as their stealth ship approached the first target. These things adapt to everything. Don't use the same weapon twice, don't follow the same pattern. Be unpredictable. Sergeant Amy Foster checked her equipment one final time. She carried enough explosives to level a city, all designed to work inside biological systems. Sir, what if the disruptors don't work? Then we improvise, Rodriguez replied. Humans are good at that. The first battle came sooner than expected. A patrol of Devourer scouts detected the human fleet while they were still 2 systems away from their target. The bioships were beautiful in a horrible way, sleek black forms that moved like living things through space. All ships engage, Admiral Sullivan ordered. What followed was unlike any battle the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships fought with a brutality that shocked even their allies. When Devourer bioships tried to board and convert human vessels, They found crews ready to destroy their own ships rather than be taken. When the enemy adapted to human weapons, the humans switched to different weapons. When that failed, they used their ships as weapons. Captain Tony Clark commanded the destroyer Ranger when it was surrounded by enemy vessels. Instead of surrendering, he accelerated directly toward the largest bioship, ramming it at full speed. The explosion destroyed both vessels, but it also sent a message to the Devourer intelligence. Humans would rather die than be consumed. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, half the human fleet was gone. But so were all the Devourer ships. More importantly, Colonel Rodriguez's team had successfully planted their first quantum disruptor. The effect was immediate. Throughout a dozen nearby systems, Devourer ships began to malfunction. Some attacked each other, others simply stopped moving. The virus was spreading through their biological network exactly as Dr. Carter had predicted, but the Central Intelligence was learning too. It began cutting connections to infected areas, sacrificing parts of itself to save the whole. The humans had heard it, but they hadn't killed it. Admiral Sullivan looked at the casualty reports and felt sick. So many good people gone in a single battle. But there were 6 more nodes to destroy, and each one would be better defended than the last. "Ma'am," Commander Williams said quietly. "Message from Earth Command. They're asking if we can continue the mission." Kate looked around her. Bridge. Half her officers were wounded. Her ship was damaged. Her fleet was down to 25 vessels. But in the distance, she could see Allied ships arriving. Vex warships, Corvani defensive platforms, even some Zephyrian crystal ships that had never been used for violence before. "Tell Earth Command we're continuing the mission," she said. "Tell them humanity keeps its promises." The war for the galaxy had truly begun, and every species was learning what humans meant when they said they fought to win. The Devourer intelligence was about to discover that some enemies were more dangerous when cornered, and humanity had been cornered since the day they learned about the threat. The next phase would determine whether civilization survived or whether the galaxy became just another meal for an ancient hunger that had consumed countless others. But for the first time in months, there was hope. The Devourers could be hurt, they could be stopped, and humanity had shown the way forward. The only question now was whether there would be anyone left alive to celebrate victory when the war finally ended. The alarms screamed through every human settlement in the solar system as the Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace. Earth's moon darkened as thousands of bioships blocked out the sun. The enemy had brought everything, every ship, every weapon, every piece of their ancient intelligence focused on destroying humanity once and for all. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, watching the enemy fleet through the viewport. After losing so many battles across the galaxy, the Devourers had decided to end the threat at its source. They had come to humanity's home to finish what they started. "How many ships?" she asked quietly. "Over 10,000 biovessels," replied Commander Pete Williams. "Plus the Central Intelligence itself. That massive structure in the center of their formation. It's the size of a small moon." Kate nodded. The plan had worked. By attacking the outer nodes and spreading the quantum virus, they had forced the Devourer intelligence to gather its remaining forces in one place. Now came the hard part, surviving long enough to destroy it. "All human forces, this is Admiral Sullivan," she broadcast on all frequencies. "Today we find out what we're really made of. Every ship, every station, every person with a weapon, you are now part of the battle for Earth. Make every shot count." Around the solar system, hidden bases came alive. Asteroid mining stations revealed massive railguns. Space elevators on Dior, Earth's moon, opened to show missile batteries. Even the civilian space stations around Mars began launching fighter craft that nobody knew existed. But the most shocking sight was Earth itself. The planet's surface lit up with weapon emplacements that had been hidden for 20 years. Every major city had secretly been turned into a fortress. Every mountain range hid missile silos. The entire world had become a weapon. Commander Jake Foster led the defense of the Jupiter system, where humanity's largest shipyards were hidden inside the gas giant's moons. His job was to protect the construction facilities that had been building humanity's true war fleet for 2 decades. "Sir, they're coming," reported Lieutenant Sarah Miller from her sensor station. 500 bioships heading straight for us." Jake looked at his small force of 20 ships. Against normal odds, they would be destroyed in minutes. But these weren't normal circumstances, and humans didn't fight normal battles. "All ships implement suicide protocol," he ordered calmly. "If they want our shipyards, they'll have to pay for them." The human ships accelerated toward the enemy fleet, but they weren't trying to win a traditional battle. Each vessel carried enough explosives to destroy everything within 100 kilometers. They were flying bombs, guided by crews who had volunteered to die for their species. The Devourer bioships tried to adapt to this insane tactic, but there was no defense against enemies who wanted to die as long as they took you with them. One by one, the human ships rammed into enemy vessels, creating explosions that lit up space like new stars. When the battle ended, Jake Foster's entire fleet was gone. But so were 400 Devourer ships, and the shipyards were safe. From those hidden facilities, the real human war fleet began to emerge. On Earth, General Amy Parker watched from her command bunker as the first enemy ships entered the atmosphere. They were coming to convert the planet's population into more of themselves, just as they had done to dozens of other worlds. But Earth was ready. "All defensive positions. Open fire," she ordered. The planet's surface erupted in light as thousands of hidden weapons fired at once. The Devourer ships had expected some resistance, but not this. Every human settlement had been turned into a killing field. Every civilian had been trained to fight. Even the children knew how to operate anti-ship weapons. The bioships that reached the ground found themselves facing an entire species that refused to be consumed. Humans fought with everything they had: guns, explosives, poison gas, biological weapons, and when those ran out, they used their bare hands. In the streets of New York, police officer David Kim led a group of civilians against a Devourer landing force. The bio-creatures were twice as tall as humans and covered in natural armor, but they had never faced prey that fought back with such determination. "Remember," David shouted as they prepared their attack, "these things learn from everything we do, so don't do the same thing twice." The human resistance used tactics that the Devourer intelligence couldn't understand. They would attack, retreat, then attack from a completely different direction using different weapons. They poisoned their own water supplies to make them toxic to the invaders. They rigged buildings to explode when the bio-creatures tried to convert them. Most shocking of all, humans fought hardest when they were losing. The worse things got, the more creative and vicious they became. But the real battle was happening in space, where Admiral Sullivan led the largest human fleet ever assembled against the Devourer Central Intelligence. The enemy's command ship was a massive biological structure that pulsed with alien thought. Inside it was the mind that had consumed entire galaxies. "All ships, final attack run," Sullivan ordered. "We only get one chance at this." The human fleet charged toward the Central Intelligence, but they weren't alone. Ships from every council race had answered humanity's call. Vex battlecruisers flew alongside human destroyers. Corvani wisdom ships provided tactical support. Even the peaceful Zephyrians had sent their crystal vessels to help, but it was Captain Steve Baker who carried the most important weapon. His ship, the small courier vessel Mercury, had been loaded with Dr. Helen Carter's final creation, a quantum virus designed specifically to destroy the Devourer network from within. "I need to get close," Baker reported over the communications channel. "Really close." "How close?" Admiral Sullivan asked. "Inside it," Baker replied simply. The plan was insane, even by human standards. Baker would fly his ship directly into the Central Intelligence, release the virus, then detonate his ship's reactor to make sure the weapon spread throughout the creature's biological systems. The alien allies provided cover as Baker's ship approached the massive enemy structure. Vex battleships drew enemy fire while Corvani ships used their advanced shields to protect the courier vessel. The Zephyrians even tried to confuse the Central Intelligence with mental static. But the enemy wasn't fooled. It recognized the threat and sent everything it had to stop Baker's ship. Biofighters swarmed around the Mercury like angry insects. That's when humanity showed the galaxy something they had never seen before, a species that would sacrifice everything to protect others. Human ships threw themselves between Baker and the enemy fighters. Pilots who had never met Baker died to give him a few more seconds. Admiral Sullivan watched her fleet being destroyed and felt pride instead of despair. This was what humans were at their core, protectors who would pay any price to save others. Baker's ship reached the Central Intelligence and disappeared inside its biological hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive creature began to convulse. Light spread through its tissues like fire through dry wood. "Virus is active," Baker reported, his voice crackling with static. "It's working. The whole network is shutting down." Across the galaxy, Devourer ships suddenly stopped moving. Some began attacking each other as their coordination failed. Others simply drifted in space as their biological systems died. The quantum virus was spreading through every connection in their network, killing the ancient intelligence that had terrorized the universe for millions of years. Baker's final transmission was barely audible. "Tell everyone, humanity keeps its promises." The explosion when his ship's reactor overloaded was visible from Earth. The Central Intelligence died in that moment, taking with it the collective consciousness that had consumed countless civilizations. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors and the galaxy began to rebuild, Ambassador Jack Morrison stood once again before the Galactic Council. But this time, the chamber was different. Earth had been given a place of honor at the center, and every alien representative looked at the human delegation with new respect. "You asked us to be civilized," Jack said to the assembled delegates. "We learned your ways, followed your laws, and respected your customs. But when civilization itself was threatened, we remembered what we truly are." He looked around the chamber at the faces of beings who had survived because humans were willing to die for them. "We are the species that crawls out of caves, looks at the darkness and says, 'Not today.' We are the ones who fight when fighting seems hopeless. We are the guardians you never knew you needed." The war was over. The Devourers were gone. And the galaxy had learned that sometimes the youngest species could teach the oldest ones what courage really meant. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through wisdom or age, but through the simple willingness to stand up when everything else sat down. They had shown the universe that some things were worth fighting for, and some fights were worth dying for. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of human guardianship had begun.